What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Innovative Seller. This is going to be your go-to show to learn what's new, what's interesting in the world of sales and technology. Every single week, we're going to be bringing you interviews with some of the most forward-thinking thought leaders in the space. You get a chance to ask me questions in our Q&A section, and I'll break down the top trends in sales processes and technology every single show. So sit back and let's get into it. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 9. Gosh, 9 already of the Innovative Seller. Got a new studio we're trying out here, so I'm pretty excited about it. You'll have to let me know what you think compared to the other videos. I love both, but you can tell me your thoughts. Today is going to be a very fun conversation here. I'm going to talk a little bit about cold calling. Yes, everybody's best friend or dreaded part of being in sales, cold calling, and why we are seeing consistently organizations seeing better results when they're implementing cold calling. Trust me, I wish it wasn't true, but just what the data is saying, right? Then we're going to share a little sneak peek into a workshop I did actually here in Austin at SaaS Talk a few weeks ago. Hopefully it will help to spark some ideas for you around how you can create a more customer-centric process. So it'll be a two-parter. This episode, episode 9, and episode 10 will also have it there. And then tech trends. I was very curious. I kind of thought I knew the difference between generative AI and what old AI was. So I did a ton of research, and I'm going to share with you everything I've learned about the difference between AI and generative AI. Excited for today's episode. Let's get into it. All right, everyone. This week's process trend. Today, we're exploring a surprising trend in sales and marketing, the resurgence of cold calling. In an age dominated by digital communication, why are businesses returning to this traditional method? In recent years, we've seen an explosion in digital marketing. You all know what I'm talking about. You've seen the emails, the social ads, and when I say emails, the automated messages on LinkedIn too. While these methods boast efficiency and reach, there's a growing challenge, which is digital fatigue. I mean, how many of you out there are like, yes, another email, please, right? Consumers are overwhelmed with impersonal, automated interactions leading to extremely low. I mean, we are literally seeing like 0.04% engagement rates. And that is where cold calling is making its mark again. Unlike automated messages, a phone call is direct and personal. Yes, can I automate the dialing of it somewhat? Absolutely. But when a person picks up, and don't get me wrong, I've seen the AI out there of them answering phones, it might get there. But the reality today is it creates a human connection that cannot be replicated by an automated email or algorithm. In these conversations, sales professionals can adapt their approach in real time, respond. They can hear the tone of voice, the concerns. While cold calling is traditional by today's methods, the ways that we're using it are not stuck in the past. Sales teams can now leverage technology to enhance their calls with tools like advanced research compilation, AI insights, data analytics. Callers can better understand whom they're calling and personalize those conversations significantly, increasing the chance of a positive response. Evidence shows that when done right, cold calling has a compelling return on investment that a lot of us really need to think through today, which is businesses that blend personal touch of a phone with insightful data, they're seeing higher conversion rates. For example, cold calling itself holds a notable place in sales strategies, with some reports, and I'll link to the report, showing that a good number of buyers, 82%, have accepted a meeting following a series of contacts that begin with a cold call. This suggests that the personal touch in cold calling is effective in making sure that we generate meetings and keep meetings going. As we wrap up, it's clear that in a world of sales, I'm telling you all, personal touch matters. And cold calling, supported by modern technology, offers a really unique opportunity to cut through the noise and make meaningful connections. Now, I've got a special treat for you. In this week's show, I've got part 1 of my workshop here in Austin at SaaS Talk. And I think you're going to really like this because we talk through the Innovative Seller. One of our frameworks is called Intent. And this was a really fun session, and I'm excited to share it with you for those of you who couldn't make it to Austin. Before that, make sure to follow the channel. Make sure to like the video. Go and look at the last few videos. We've got hundreds of thousands of hours of content. And now, here's my session at SaaS Talk. Of the day. I am Jake Dunlap. I am the CEO of Scaled Consulting. I also post a lot on LinkedIn, random sales advice. You can follow me if you want. You might regret it after some period, but there's a lot. There's a lot of content. So I'm really excited for today. This will literally be the first time that we've ever done this version of this session. I released a book in, I guess, almost a month ago called Innovative Seller, USA Today bestseller, talking about where is sales headed, right? I think for a lot of us in this room, sales has looked very similar for a long time. We've got this conveyor belt process where you've got, I got to get qualified up front, and then you get passed to this person, and then you get passed to this person. And if you think about what's happened in our consumer behaviors and how we like to interact with people digitally and other methods, it's not really ideal. So what I'm going to do is talk today in particular about, one, what are the things that I saw in the market? We work with, I don't know, 120 plus companies every year. We've got about 35 plus people in the firm. We do a mix of revenue operations and process and strategy consulting. So I get a chance to talk to hundreds of CEOs, CROs, and really just kind of distilling down what are the trends that we think are going to shape sales for this decade and decades to come. Normally I would talk a ton about AI as well too, but that's tomorrow. Me and Kevin Dorsey are doing a quick session on generative AI and sales, so tune in for that. We'll have some time for you guys to workshop a few of these concepts as well too. How many of you have a sales team like over 10 people or so? Most everyone else like a few, handful, one or two? One? Just you? No, 4. Was that 4? 4, okay, 4. Okay, so yeah, we'll start to put some of this in practice. I've got a QR code where you can get some other resources as well too. We won't have time to get through everything, so we'll get through what I think we can get through that I think you will have the most benefit from as a part of this. Okay, so I'll start it here. So I started this how I started the book as well too, is I interviewed the woman who at the time was the president of Blockbuster.com. Her name is Shelly Arbach. She's on a bunch of Nordstrom board and a bunch of others. And a lot of people don't know this story about Netflix. And what happened with Blockbuster, I mean, how many of you even know what Blockbuster is? You all heard of Blockbuster? All right, cool. Yeah. I saw this BuzzFeed. It was like, if you know what this sign looks like, and it was like the Blockbuster ticket, like, you're old. I was like, fuck, I knew all of it. So long story short, Reed Hastings, who founded Netflix, took the idea, after they'd already started the mail order business, right? They actually went and met with Blockbuster. And the pitch that Reed Hastings made to Blockbuster, right? So you had Blockbuster was in-store only. They just released Blockbuster.com. They were starting to think about what that might be. Netflix was mail only, right? There was no streaming at this time, et cetera. And he came to them and said, you guys should acquire us, right? You should acquire us, Blockbuster.com, and then we'd have streaming, we'd have in-store, we've had this. And the woman at the time, who was the CEO of the Blockbuster.com, she's like, yeah, this is amazing. The CEO of Blockbuster said no. The CEO of Blockbuster is like, nah, nobody prefers to do that. People like to come into stores, etc. And he talked about how important that was to like how people liked to buy, right? And we all know the story of like what happened with Blockbuster, but for me, it was a perfect intro to the book because that's what we're doing right now in B2B sales. In B2B sales, we're all, how many of you come from a sales background? How many of you, okay, good, all right, got a lot of sellers too, right? I mean, how many of you have been told like we don't talk about price in the first call, right? Everybody, right? Don't talk about price. Give them everything on the first call, right? And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of this that is still very, very applicable today, but there's a lot that's changed, okay? If you think about how you prefer to buy in particular and how much that's evolved in the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. 10 years, Amazon Prime wasn't delivering next day. Now, how often do you pick a inferior product because it gets here on Prime tomorrow versus the product you wanted that will get there 4 days from now? This is, we are being trained to one-click buy. It's got to get here right now. Recognize the utility. B2B processes have not kept up, okay? This is the dates of when almost every major B2B methodology was founded. Medic's my favorite. 1996. Like the internet was new in 1996, right? So this idea that there's, and I'm going to talk a lot about this, that there's one champion, one economic buyer, that's not how people buy today. People buy in teams. They buy with consensus. right? Don't get me wrong, impact, some of those things, very, very applicable. But when I started to look and when I wrote the book and I started to think about like what's got to change, et cetera, that's really the title for this, which is speed and convenience, right? How do we engineer our B2B sales process for speed and convenience? People want to buy faster. We are artificially slowing buyers down by putting everybody back and starting at the exact same place, right? So we're going to talk about the things that you can do to help you with that, right? So this isn't just me. This is, buyers are saying this. How many of you also buy things? How many of you also buy well, you all buy things. That was stupid. How many of you buy software or other products? Think about your own experience. How fun is it? How fun is the current buying of software process? I can just tell, I see the disgust in her face of just like, no, behind you. But that's everybody. Because why? We don't feel like we're heard, right? Again, and if you can't get on the phone and add value, if your sales team isn't adding value, why am I talking to this person? Again, how many of you are like, ooh, I can't wait to talk to somebody? No. You skip your mom, your aunt, whoever, they go to voicemail. So again, we just have to start to think about some of these, this, one of the ones for me that I think is really critical is 40% of buyers name having to contact sales for a demo, one of the things that they hated the most. Right? How many of you have a way on your website where I could watch a demo of your product, a full demo? 2 hands. 2 people, right? Because I got to hop on a call. You got to show me it because obviously you're going to customize it just perfect to me. And then it's actually the exact same fucking demo you've ran 800 times, right? McKinsey has some stats out as well too about, I think it's 33% of buyers are ready to self-service at 40 grand. 40, 50 grand, and that number is continuing to grow, right? So again, a lot of this, 81% want pricing information. So again, we just expect transparency today, right? We expect as consumers transparency. We want to consume information on our own timelines as well too, all right? And so how can we do that, right? The last 10 years, seller-driven to buyer-driven, this is a big one. Technology and the buying decisions, again, but it really is true. People have been talking about how people are more educated than ever, but it really is true now. Whenever you go to buy something on B2B, you go talk to your group in Pavilion, right? Or you go to this other group, and then you talk to these 3 people. And by the time I talk to sales, I already know what the price is. I already use your competitor. We don't need to do this dance. How do we move faster here? And I think that's it. Is the good part is for a lot of you, this is going to help you close deals faster, too. So it's not just about a better experience for customers, it's about closing deals faster as well too, right? As we think the last 5 years, this one's big, especially in the last 2, right? We're seeing the CFO now is involved in almost every deal, even if you're dealing with CEO, right? CFOs, there's more and more scrutiny around ROI, right? The interesting part too is this idea, as we think about just recently, as we've just destroyed digital channels for outreach and just sending emails, people expect personalization. Why am I going to get on the phone with you if you haven't taken the time to research my business, if you can't have an intelligent conversation? Can't I just watch? If you're literally going to do a cookie cutter demo, can't I just watch it online or something, or scroll and watch it, right? So we're going to talk now about how to build some of these things into your process, right? Because what we found that buyers want is, again, they want something that's optimized for the way that they want to buy. They want to be able to fast track or move forward, right? Sometimes they want to move forward. Sometimes they need to move back in the process. The sales process does not move linear. It's not linear like it looks like in Salesforce, where it's stage 1, 2, 3, 4. It's no, you might have a group of people that are at stage 4, but then you still got to go back, and the ROI team's at step 0, right? So it's our systems also are kind of built for this conveyor belt, I call it conveyor belt style sale as a part of this, right? So again, you can use Medic. I still like Challenger Sale. They've got all their own things, but we've got to change the focus of the sale to be about what the customer wants. Okay, so the first kind of concept we're going to talk through, and like I said, I've got a QR code that y'all can do and look at the documents, and you can go and have access to them later, is when I was putting the book together, I completely finished the book, and then I thought to myself, I was okay, so people are going to read this, they're going to understand this idea of accelerating customer behavior, and then they're going to implement Medic with it, and I was okay, well, that's not going to work. I was like, so I had to come up with an acronym, and I found one that I think is superior, right? And you guys can be the judge of that, right, as a part of it. So intent is what I came up with, because again, what I started to do is I just thought about like, what do consumers want? And also, would I share my methodology with the consumer? Like if we're going through the sales process, we'd be like, oh, are you the economic buyer? Like you would never, right? Like BANT or whatever one you use. Like, so I tried to think of something that I think would be easy for people to understand, but also more importantly, represent how people want to buy. All right, my friends, for this week's tech trends, right? Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about AI, but I thought what I would do is actually get back to basics a little bit, right? Artificial intelligence has been a buzzword for decades. There were tools saying we're AI enabled back in like 2010, right? But traditionally, AI has focused on specific narrow tasks. Like think of things like a chess playing computers, spam filters, right? These systems, often based on rules or limited learning algorithms, excel really, really well in structured environments, but struggled with complexity and truly things that were not super predictable, okay? And now that enters generative AI, okay? Why people thought ChatGPT was like, what the hell is this thing, right? Is because this new wave of technology isn't just about understanding or analyzing data, whether it's writing text, generating images, composing music, maybe making videos. GPT systems, which is generative pre-trained transformer. I'm going to do a little deep dive on that. I'll nerd out a little bit for you, right? They learn from a vast amount of data, and sometimes they can literally produce work that looks like the same thing that a human would work. And so let's nerd out a little bit and go deeper on GPT. And just so you all know, I had to look this up as well too. Right? I'm like, ChatGPT. I'm like, yeah, I know what that is, right? But let me just tell you a little bit about it. So generative pre-trained transformers. It's a type of AI that's designed to generate text based on the inputs that it receives. But there's much more to it than just text generation. So let me break it down for you. Okay, generative. All right, this means GPT is capable of creating new content. Anything from articles, poems, summaries, translations. It doesn't just understand or categorize information, it can generate entirely new pieces of content based on the patterns that it's learned over time. Pre-trained, okay, that's the P, right? Before GPT is ever put into a system or task, it undergoes extensive training on a broad data set of, internet text or whatever your data set is, right? This pre-training helps the model understand language at a deep level, enabling it to grasp context, nuance, and even the subtleties of human emotion in text. Transformer. No, I'm not talking about Optimus Prime. That's what I initially thought. I'm like, what does Optimus Prime or the Decepticons have to do with this, all right? This refers to the model architecture GPT uses, and this is where I got a little confused too, but hopefully this will be helpful. The transformer is a deep learning model, right, that adopts a mechanism called attention, allowing it to weigh the importance of different words in relation to each other. This helps GPT be highly effective in understanding and generating coherent and contextually appropriate text. Right? So the implications of GPT are profound in not just in the chat features, but in a lot of other products, okay? So from generating reports to drafting emails, GPT can automate routine writing tasks that free up people like me, people like you, to focus on more strategic activities, right? GPT can personalize learning by providing tutoring. We use it for create a sales skills training. It can tailor content to your specific style. It can tailor it to how you prefer to learn, what's your pace. For creatives, these GPTs, they can help writers, artists, designers to spark creativity. I use it for creativity a lot. Hey, I'm getting started on this new thing. Give me some ideas for this, right? Customer service, right? GPTs can help provide chatbots that provide human-like customer interactions that make a customer experience better and save your people for the questions that are really tough to answer or where they need the human touch. So that's your GPT crash course in maybe, I said 1 minute, but maybe 3 minutes. And now let me get back into a couple of things that are the nuances between Gen AI and AI. So the core of what separates generative AI apart from traditional AI is these systems use neural networks, which is basically layers upon layers of, again, we can call them neurons that mimic the human brain, right? So they can digest and process data in much more complex ways than like if this, then that, if this, then that. It's overlay after overlay after overlay. AI learns patterns and nuances, enabling a more dynamic range of responses and increasing the capabilities of what it can respond to in the future, right? So what does this mean for you as a professional, for maybe your industry? Generative AI can automate creative tasks, provide personalization at scale, and solve problems in ways that I literally did not think were going to be possible in my lifetime, right? This isn't just an improvement over old AI, it's a complete paradigm shift that really offers a new set of tools that can help us to solve big problems faster. So as we wrap up today's segment, it's clear that generative AI is not just a step forward in technology, it's a leap into a new era of possibilities. My big suggestion is that you evaluate new tools that really go deep on what type of AI they claim to have, and also make sure that when you're evaluating AI, you want to make sure that, again, you can actually see a real product. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, my AI does this and it's not real. So if you want to know, hey, is this real Gen AI? Make sure you stress test it. Last, but certainly not least, on today's episode, we're going to jump into some Q&A from you, right? So I received multiple questions on sales and AI or whatever, and I do my best to answer them. So make sure to drop your questions in the chat below in the comments, and maybe we'll feature you on one of the upcoming episodes. Again, everyone, if you got value out of this, I know I learned a lot even preparing for this segment. Make sure to follow the channel, make sure to like the video, share it with others in your network, and now on to some Q&A.
What are the biggest challenges you see facing your industry right now, and what exciting opportunities do you see on the horizon?
Well, I think for a lot of people, sales has been very similar for the last 20, 25 years, meaning we start everybody at the same part of the process, everyone goes through, but consumer behavior has leapt ahead, right? You've got people, they're like, look, man, I don't need to talk to a person. I just want to do things virtually. And that type of buyer didn't exist 5, 10 years ago. And so I think the biggest challenge, and to me also the most exciting piece, is how we're going to adapt B2B sales to have more dynamic customer experiences to better meet people where they are in their journey. And I think that's going to be the future of, personalized buying for B2B is going to have to be something that every company invests in.
What are some of the most underutilized sales tools or technologies that you've encountered?
I think the interesting part is that a lot of the tools that people already use every day, like Outreach or some of these other ones, they have so much more functionality that people don't even know about. And so I would say the most underutilized tools are your CRM. People are probably scratching the surface on the insights they could get to then improve their own performance. I would say probably their sales engagement platform. People are probably using 20% of it. And there's, recording, deal management, ways you can automate certain workflows. And then probably LinkedIn Sales Navigator would be the other one. Sales Nav, you can set up very specific views where you can interact with people before you ever try to pitch them or DM them. And people don't even know how to set up these filters to where you can look at lead shares, and then from the lead shares you can then go and comment on just a specific group's post. So I think I'm going to say the tools that you have right now are probably good enough. You just need to know how to use them more effectively.